Hi guys, Bran here, and welcome to another commentary video. Today we're going to talk about why changing the game matters, because I've heard a lot from people lately when it comes to certain perks being introduced in the game and certain tiles being introduced to the game that are kind of like odd and weird that you've seen probably on Toba Landing that have, kind of been a little bit of a switch up. I've been hearing a lot of people talk about how they hate that the game seems to be changing so much, and it kind of puts things in a weird perspective for me because changing the game matters a lot, and you should continue to have the game change often and frequently for a very, very important reason that we're going to talk about. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So the main thing that it comes down to is why games should always be ever changing, especially when it comes to important stuff like the meta or like the way maps work and stuff like that. The reason those things should always be ever evolving and ever changing is because one of the many ways that games actually die is the fact that people optimize the fun out of games. If you have been in the gaming space for a very, very long time, not just in the DB space, but the gaming space in general, you've probably heard this statement before: optimizing the fun out of a game. So there are certain games that are built with competitive in mind, and they're built from the top to the bottom for a competitive experience. They can be played casually, but they're mostly built for a competitive experience. And, those games are, from the top to bottom built with that competitive in mind. And if you're playing it casually, it's more you're kind of the odd person there and not necessarily the status quo, which is that more put together, sweaty experience. However, what happens in a lot of games, and has been the death of many games, are kind of games that end up in this weird space, like Dead by Daylight is, where it's mostly a fun, casual experience, but people do try to make competitive experiences out of it. And even if they're not making like quote unquote comp experiences out of it, they're definitely sweating. They're definitely sweating and trying to be as sweaty as possible and get the best results all the time. There's people that always want a 4 out. There's people that always want a 4K. The kind. And they, that player base that want that complete 4 out or that complete 4K have grown over the years that people have played this game. And that is often referred to as optimizing the fun out of the game. Because what those people have done over time is figure out what perks have been consistently meta, what perks to run, what things to do that are meta, what strats, techs on certain killers. Like, they have optimized the fun out of the game. They have essentially taken every single aspect of the game, filed it down to what is going to help me win. I'm going to do nothing for fun. Nothing is going to be suboptimal. I am just going to do everything I can to get the most complete victory all the time. Now, there is something to be said. I will take a little aside here. There's something to be said for a game that has the depth for you to be able to do that is fun. And learning that curve of that skill curve of what should I do better, what should I optimize better is fun. I mean, that's essentially what we do on the match reviews. Match reviews that we do for people on Mondays, which we record at twitch.tv/TheMrHeadache on Mondays if you want to, be there live for your match review. Yeah, there is fun to be had in figuring out the most efficient way to do things. And, it's really, really rewarding when you pull those things off. So, to an extent, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But when every player optimizes the fun out of the game, then we end up in a bad spot. Then we end up in a situation where most of the game's player base ends up, gearing towards more of a sweaty experience. And the casual gamer, which I will say, first and foremost, that the casual experience is always going to be the more important experience in any sort of gaming space, because that's the person that bought the game and is just going to play after their day at work, and they're the ones that are most likely going to, buy skins and stuff like that because they just they're actually working a full 9 to 5 and come home and want to enjoy the game. And if they enjoy the game, they're more inclined to buy those skins with the money that they got from working a normal job. So those people are really, really important. The casual player base is always the most important to a company in terms of just making money and keeping the game alive. So it is important that we focus more on keeping that casual experience and keeping that environment where somebody can come in after work and just play the game and not lose every single match and have a miserable time because now everybody in the game is super sweaty and knows the most optimal pathing all the time and all that sort of stuff. That, it's important to, put the reins on them. And how do you put the reins on that? And it's funny because DBD, in a lot of very micro ways, has tried to put the reins on it. And this includes things like meta shakeups, introducing new tiles to maps, those things that players, essentially any sort of player that has been a veteran for a long time or has learned a lot on how to, spend a lot of that time, like I said, optimizing the fun out of the game. Anything that switches up that optimization, something that forces them to learn something new or change to try and do something different. That is how you avoid that. That is how you avoid people optimizing the fun out of the game. You do that by introducing new things that the players have to learn. That way there's kind of like, at least for a little while, at least a little bit more of an even playing field. Not a huge one, but a little bit more of an even playing field, because for a very short while, nobody knows what to do with a brand new tile when it shows up, right? Nobody knows what to do with a brand new tile when it shows up. I remember when they first started introducing tiles where there was just like, it was jungle gyms, like formal jungle gyms with the palette, but there was just like no window. like those would show up on Yamaoka, they now show up on Toba Landing, like they showed up on Borgo. There's just sometimes just like a tile that's a normal jungle gym, but it has no window. And it's just really weird. But like for a hot minute, like players don't know what to do there. Both veteran players and new players, they don't know what to do there, because it's like, well, that's weird. How do you run this then? Like there's a little bit of confusion there that lasts a little while. And that is important because like those people that optimize the fun out of the game are kind of brought down to a similar playing field of somebody who is not trying to take the game that seriously. And if DBD focused more on trying to, mix things up as much as possible when it comes to stuff like that, it would kind of like stem this tide that the game seems to have of people over time optimizing the fun out of the game. But yeah, if I had any sort of advice for you is don't look into this as a bad thing whenever a new perk shakes up the meta, or like there's new tiles added to a map or something like that, because in general, that's actually better for you. That's better for the health of the game, because it takes those people that have optimized the fun out of the game, it forces them down kind of to a level where they have to learn things just like you do, and that's better for the casual audience, which is what keeps us afloat, it's what keeps us alive. So if there's any TLDR or any takeaway I want you to take away from this video, it's that not to be very resistant when it comes to big changes in the game when Dead by Daylight puts it forward, because this is what makes the whole thing about people trying to optimize the fun out of the game. It is how people actually counter that, is when you make those changes to the game, those big changes. So don't be as resistant to those when those come by. But other than that, that's gonna be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, friends. I appreciate you all so much for spending time with me today, but I do upload daily, so I will see you tomorrow. But if I do not, I will see you when I see you. Goodbye.